What's something embarrassing you're willing to admit? The first time I went down on a girl I had no idea what to do, so I just lapped at it like how a cat drinks water. To my advantage, it was the first time she had been gone down on, so she didn't know what to expect and enjoyed it anyway because she had no basis of comparison. Honestly, that does not sound like the worst way to give oral sex. I had a guy bite my clit once. I always tell this story when this question pops up. When I was in the 6th grade, my friends used to call me a dildo all the time. I used to hate it, and get so pissed every time they did. Crucially, I didn't know what a dildo was, but I had a sneaking suspicion that it was a penis. So close, yet so far. I didn't realize my error until one fateful day, when my friends once again decided to call me a dildo during PE. In my anger, I shouted, "At least I have one, I'm 30 years old." And to this very day, anytime I see one of those people, they inevitably bring up the fact that in the 6th grade, I shouted that I had a dildo. I audibly shit myself in a boardroom meeting once. There were about 7 or 8 other people in the room and it happened while my boss was speaking. He stopped talking and there were some gasps. I didn't know what to do other than profusely apologize and go home. Next day I apologized to my boss and told him I'd been ill. I still work at the same company and it hurts every day. This was 2 years ago. Lol, as someone who sits in meeting to schedule meetings, I would die if this happened. Probably made a few people's day though. Totally thought your job was to poop in meetings. Made me question my whole career. Don't worry. There's this guy at my work who shits his pants on the regular and it's not even a big deal anymore. I bet hardly anyone even remembers, and when they do it's 12 seconds of "yeah haha that was awkward" and then that's it. Edit. Apparently a lot of workplaces have serial pants shitters. That's uncomfortably surprising. Maybe that's the remedy to the awkwardness. If you shit your pants once, people will be grossed out and probably make you out to be that guy who shat himself. They'll probably make fun of you. But shit yourself once a week, they'll think you have a real problem. They may even pity you. Hell, they might make you CEO because they feel so bad. A man brave enough to shit himself and return to work is courageous. A man who does it regularly as a strategy is a visionary. Same happened to me in a meeting with 20 plus people while I was speaking. I quickly put a grin on my face, took my cell phone out from my back pocket and said, "Sorry, my daughter has been playing pranks on me." Changed my ringtone again. Not sure if everybody believed, but at least one person didn't. My boss. He knew my daughter was only a few months old. He came later to me and said that he'll know who to send for a meeting when he doesn't know what to say. I've ripped my pants 3 times at work. The first 2 were ill-fitted pants and I tried to pick up some large printers. The last pair I ripped fit fine, but I had lost 10 pounds and hadn't adjusted my belt. I now keep a spare jacket on my chair at all times, and have thrown out all my neon-colored undies. I color match my pants with my underwear black. Moving to a new job, I'm going to keep my spare jacket and underwear policies intact for now. I thought this to the first time I ever heard "jizz in my pants" by Lonely Island, thought they were just pissing everywhere. I actually just ripped my pants in the middle of a conference call about 10 minutes ago, went across my leg and right below my right butt cheek crotch area a very loud tear happened. When my boss and I got off the line I told him what happened and he burst out laughing, so that's what that sound was. I was walking to work once wearing a fitted pencil skirt and a girl came scurrying up to me and tapped me on the shoulder hurriedly. I took off my headphones thinking, why is a stranger trying to chat to me at 8 AM? Only for her to whisper, "I don't think you know but your skirt is ripped at the back." Like, the whole way up. I just thought you should know. I felt behind me and sure enough the seam had split from the top near the waistband right down to below my ass. I can't remember what underwear I was wearing, but I basically took my jacket off, tied it around my waist and hurried back home. God knows how many people I passed by that day with my whole ass just out in the breeze. At least I didn't unknowingly turn up for work with it out, I guess. Instead I had to ring my boss and explain I'd had to go change. My dad's colleague had a story somewhat like this, but even more embarrassing if it makes you feel better. He was on a business trip with a few co-workers to India. The night before they left he ate something bad and got an awful stomach bug. When he finally got on the plane the next day, he was so ill that he just took a pill and passed out. Next thing he knew, his colleague was frantically waking him up. While he was asleep he had shit himself, and not like a polite poop, a full-on liquid shit. Apparently it was all over his seat and clothes and smelled so foul that there was no hiding from other people on the plane what had happened. The attendant and his colleague helped him get cleaned up and moved to a different seat. But, JFC, I can't imagine sitting there with an entire plane of people knowing that you just pooped your pants, and no escape. Plus my dad heard it on the office grapevine, so what happened obviously got out and around to other colleagues. It's the most horrifying story I ever heard, and it's made me terrified to fall asleep on a plane if I am even a little nauseous. I used to think whoever fucked harder in the relationship while having sex determined the gender of the baby, which makes no sense. You mean if the woman does it harder it's a girl, if the man does it it's boy, or it's winner's choice? This made me laugh at work. I just imagined a guy and a girl going at it, competing for their sex for the baby, both of them amping it up every time one tries to one-up the other. I got my first iPhone about 7 or 8 years ago. It was the 4 feet I think, the first to have Siri. In a ho. I was listening to a lot of hip hop at the time and the phrase I chose say to Siri was "I love it when you call me Big Papa." For those who don't know, Notorious Big, now you know. Siri asked me if I wanted her to call me Big Papa. Why the fuck not? I thought. So this event totally left my memory until about 2 years later when I was looking for an email I had sent from my phone. I found it and was horrified to learn that it had been signed off from Big Papa. Everything I had sent from my phone in those 2 years, including job-related emails and even applications, had been signed off from Big Papa. Everything I had sent from my phone in those 2 years, including job-related emails and even applications, had been signed off from Big Papa. What? My wife changed mine so Siri calls me Dickface. Holy fuck. Is this why I can't get jobs? Shit. I don't have access to my phone to check. This is going to drive me nuts. During rec baseball when I was 7 or 8 I had to pee really bad. I even told my coach but he said I was up to bat. I should have struck out but I got on base. I couldn't hold it any longer and pissed my pants on second base. I peed my pants on a roller coaster when I was little. Not because I was scared, but because I was scared to tell my friend's mom I needed to use the bathroom because they wanted to ride the rides. I told them I must have sat in some water. I don't think she believed me. Edit. My highest rated Reddit comment is about me peeing my pants. I'll have to remember that. My sister did the same thing at miniature golf. When she finally said something they went to the bathroom together and as soon as her hand touched the door she peed herself. They washed her shorts in the sink and used the blow dryer to dry them as much as possible. Her friend kept a secret to this day. I, on the other hand, just told the whole internet. Yep, Pissed myself playing shortstop when I was about 8. I slowly squatted closer to the ground as I realized I couldn't hold it, and as the piss cascaded down my leg, I tried to catch it in my glove so I wouldn't form an obvious piss puddle in the dirt. My dad fortunately noticed I was acting odd from the bleachers, and ran down to the dugout to yell at my coach to get me off the field. He then followed me to the bathroom while I cried in embarrassment. I was painfully shy and this was my worst nightmare, and told me he had a plan to make it seem less humiliating. He came into the bathroom stall with me and dumped his soda on my shirt and shorts, and told me to tell all my friends that he just accidentally spilled his drink on me. Pretty solid plan. Except as we were leaving the bathroom, my entire team was lined up outside and saw my dad walk out with me. So they were all like, "OMG, why was your dad in the bathroom with you? That's super weird. I'm a girl." When I was a kid there was someone else wearing a Peter Griffin shirt. This was when Family Guy was still really new but was becoming popular. The night before I watched the episode with the Mafia and Peter asked the Don if he wanted him to whack a guy, off a guy, whack off a guy. So I thought the terms were interchangeable. So back to the main story. Everyone was saying that the shirt was awesome. I agreed and shouted that I would whack off anyone for that shirt. I got smacked upside the head and thankfully that was the last of it. I once got 2 speeding tickets in one afternoon. One was in a boat, the other was in a car. Educational edit. For boats, in most cases, there is not a definite limit like 30 miles per hour, 40 knots, etc. The signs will simply say no wake zone and depending on what type size of boat you have will determine how fast that may be, so long as you do not create a noticeable wake. They are typically posted near shore but can also just be out in the middle of a river lake. My freshman year in college I lived in dorms that had community bathrooms but each room had their own sink. Weird combo, I know. It was such a pain to have to get up in the middle of the night to walk to the bathroom. Anyway, one night I went out with members of my club sports team to the bars and got blindingly drunk. Somehow staggered back to my dorm room, somehow avoided the questions of our and got changed and into bed. Now I forgot to mention that my and my roommate's beds were both elevated off the ground as if they were top bunks, despite being separate from one another. Right before I went to sleep I realized I had to pee. In my drunken stupor I decided it was a better idea to try and kneel on my bed and pee off the side into the sink rather than try and walk to the bathroom. Started peeing into sink. Fell backwards drunkenly still peeing into the air. Passed out while peeing straight up into the air like a whale shooting water out of a blowhole. Like a pee whale. Yeah, woke up the next morning. Realized what had happened. Shamefully ate some cornflakes. Then Lysol bombed the room and torched the sheets, mini rug, hamper and everything else that had been violated. TLDR drunkenly came home in college dorm and accidentally gave my room a golden shower. 11/10 imagery edit. Also, like a pee whale. Yeah, I knock and text all day. I once sat on a red pastel crayon in middle school. I was wearing white pants. This was nice, thank you. I sat on chocolate at Disney World wearing light gray shorts. Walked around all day long without realizing. I was more mad my ex hadn't checked out my butt that whole time. I always used to volunteer to help out with first day registration at my middle school. All my friends gave me crap for being a teacher's pet sucker. The real reason I did it was if you volunteered you got to pick your locker rather than having one randomly assigned. And I had a gigantic crush on my English teacher. So both 7th and 8th grade years of middle school I wound up with a locker directly across from his classroom so I could see him every day. and I found the most ridiculous excuses possible to have to go to my locker. I may have also sent him the world's most cringe-inducing anonymous Valentine my 8th grade year. I'm pretty sure he knew it was me, but I didn't care. I was completely smitten. So it was kind of like that episode of The Simpsons where Lisa gets a crush on Mr. Bergstrom. Except it wasn't charming in any way. It was awkward and terrible and a wee bit stalkerish. Not having the chance to apologize to him for being such a fucking weirdo is among my biggest regrets in life. Unfortunately, he died unexpectedly just after I started high school. Edit. No, I didn't kill him. I could have phrased that better. He had a massive heart attack while at school. Thankfully not while he was teaching. It was unexpected because he was very vocally a vegetarian and very into running. Also, whoever gilded me, I'm glad you enjoyed my cringiness. If he never said anything to you about it, nor did any counselors talk to you about it, then he probably either never really noticed or was just flattered and realized you were harmless. It's really not uncommon for girls that age to develop uncomfortable crushes on mentor figures. As a tutor, I discovered the crush thing. It is flattering, but a little scary too. As a 22-year-old woman who currently has a giant crush on her algorithms professor, it doesn't go away after middle school. Although I'm 99% sure he doesn't realize, because at least I've developed some degree of subtlety since middle school. Haha, this happens all the time. I'm a teacher. We tease the crushed on teachers in the staff room and come up with absurd solutions that will release the teacher from the situation without embarrassing the student. It's hilariously difficult with some of the more stalkerish students. They may say he died of a burst ventricle, but I know he died of a broken heart. When I was like 13, I grabbed lotion out of my mom's bathroom to jerk off with, and it was some weird fake tan shit that turned my dick a weird tint of orange for like a whole month. That was really stupid. Edit. Thanks for the gold. I don't know what it does, but I'm eternally grateful. Was your palm all orange after 2? That would be a telltale sign for sure, lol. Oh yay, both hands were orange from rubbing them together, and it burned the inside of my dick like crazy. It was a life-changing experience. I had a nickname Blue for a while. It was short for Blue Light Special because I got lost in a Kmart when on a Boy Scout trip. I was like 11. I painted my entire wiener blue with a Sharpie when I was like 6. Dunno why. It took like 2 weeks to come off. Thought it would be blue forever. Is your name John, and did you do that under the table in the classroom in grade 1 while class was on and the other kids were watching? If so, I remember you. If not, Jesus fuck, how many of you are there? A kid named Charles did that in my kindergarten class. I thought he was just a bit special. Apparently there are more of them than we will ever imagine. When my husband was 4, he used a marker to color his face brown. He wanted to look like his preschool crush. There are pictures. I was standing in line at Walmart and the guy's dentures in front of me fell out onto the ground. I didn't realize what he dropped, so I bent down to get them and saw it was a full set of teeth. I then decided not to touch them since he has to put them in his mouth. After standing back up, I felt like that was rude and he might think I didn't touch them because they are gross. I changed my mind and bent back down to grab them, but as my hand was like 3 inches away, I thought to myself that he definitely doesn't want me to touch them, so I stood back up. The entire time this guy was standing there watching me bend down and stand up several times. The final time I stood up, he locked eyes. He gave me a weird look, then snatched them aggressively and walked away. I still have no idea if I should have grabbed them or not. It was just embarrassing having him watch me be indecisive about his teeth. About a year or so ago, I was standing in line at the grocery store. waiting to pay for my small grouping of items. The man in front of me is elderly, maybe late 80s early 90s. He has finished his transaction and is trying to get his wallet out of his pants to pay. Now, this guy's clothes are about 2 sizes too big for him. So everything is kind of hanging off of him. Because of his advanced age and loose clothing, reaching into his back pocket to retrieve said wallet is proving to be extremely difficult. He seems to lack the strength, dexterity, coordination to both maintain his reach and grab the wallet from the very deep and loose back pocket of his old man pants. This goes on for, without exaggeration, for like 5 solid minutes. Picture a grocery store with lots of people trying to get dinner and whatnot, and everyone is basically on hold while this guy tries to get his wallet out. To no avail. Now, here comes the horror. Old man big pants, without a word to me, points his rear end at me and just looks into my eyes. I realize that he wants me to get his wallet out for him. The realization hits me and I am frozen. There are like 10 people in line behind me all watching this happen, and who want to get home in time for Jeopardy. I start to do nothing, but then realize that this dude is genuinely looking for help. So, I reach into his back pocket to try and retrieve the wallet, as quickly as possible. This is when I realize what the problem was. The dude has Costanza Wallet X10. It's huge, and heavy. I am trying to get a grip on the thing and I cannot get it past the loose fabric of the deep pocket. And more folds of what I realize are his old man floppy ass flesh. I swear I tried for like 30 seconds to get the thing, and couldn't. At this point I turn around and see the horror on some people's faces, because to the untrained eye, I am a dude sticking his hand down a poor old man's pants, in a grocery store, in broad daylight. It's at this point that I give up and tell the guy, "Sir, it's all good, your stuff is on me," and cram my card into the machine and pay for his stuff. Like $12 bucks. NBD. He thanks me and shuffles out of the store while I pay for my stuff and slide off to my new life as a molester of the elderly. Wow. He got you to fondle him and pay for his meal. I'd say you're a good first date. I was watching a movie with my parents when I was 7 and heard the characters talk about porn. I asked my parents what it meant and they didn't tell me, so I looked it up on our family computer. This was around Christmas time and I got so scared I wouldn't get anything for Christmas because I looked it up. So I wrote a letter to Santa apologizing. He wrote me back and said it was okay. The next year I realized Santa was my parents. It still keeps me up at night. This is hilarious and adorable at the same time. Have your parents mentioned it since? That's not embarrassing, it's super nice of your parents. Way to throw them a bone. They got to address an uncomfortable issue without actively having to address it. Win-win. OMG. This is the main reason I try to explain any and all questions my daughter, 7, almost 8, asks in an age-appropriate fashion. Because she knows how to use the computer, and I would rather her not look that shit up on Google. The Santa part is pretty funny though. When I was 13 I wrote a pretty detailed Naruto fanfiction. That wouldn't be so embarrassing except for that fact that the details included me and a character who was 26 playing strip poker, among other things. Here's where I really fucked myself over. I then decided to print the story out so I could read it later and make edits. However, I decided to bring it into the bathroom to read while I took a bath and left it in there when I was done. My dad found it and read it, and let's just say he was not happy with the writing content his 13-year-old daughter decided to pick. Edit. I'm glad you find my ghosts gold worthy. Hopefully this didn't bring up too many painful memories for anyone. My best friend went through something similar, except it was a drawing of a teacher having sex with her, and she drawed herself with gigantic tits. She was like 12 at the time, lol. Her parents found the drawing in her backpack and were furious with her. If it makes you feel better, I used to read Twilight erotic fanfiction all the time. Who hasn't fantasized over a fictional character in their younger years? You just dragged out another memory of a picture I drew of myself when I was like 10. It was of my fantasy body and it was basically just a naked girl with huge boobs. My mom found it in a notebook and thought it was hilarious, so she kept it. I found it several times and tried throwing it away, but she found it every time. I try to block out anything I did before 2008 tbh. This is too real. This probably would be me if I hadn't drawn to Sonic the Hedgehog OCS kissing when I was like 8 and my mom saying how proud she was of me trying out new poses. Her encouragement was too embarrassing for me to handle. That being said, that didn't stop me from reading a ton of fanfiction. Lemons and limes. Man. Lemons and limes. What a time to be alive. Wrote a really graphic Susunaru fanfic. Accidentally texted the link to my dad instead of a friend. He texted back her and otherwise has not mentioned it. I never knew the spleen was a real organ. The name sounded so silly to me that I thought it was a joke. When did I find out it was an organ? In med school. Edit. A lot of people are asking why I didn't learn this stuff in pre-med. I'm not American, so we go straight into med school. Stuff like anatomy and physiology forms the first year of med school for us. I accidentally emailed you up to my entire 900+ person office at 11 AM on a Tuesday. Edit. We have this company internal Facebook forum type website. I thought I was commenting on something only my friend could see as a joke. Turns out the forum was set up to send out email updates when someone gave positive feedback, so when I give him the feedback of you up, it blasted the whole building. This is hilarious. PS. Gmail has an option under settings to give you a 30-second window to unsend an email. I think you made the correct decision to not touch them. I don't think you'd ever shake the feeling of touching someone else's dentures. Hilarious story though. I laughed so hard 10/10. Good call on not picking them up. Bad call on bending over and almost picking them up several times. It's the decision problem. You're better off sticking to one rather than hesitating. I worked at Chick-fil-A right out of high school and I once had to help an old man and his old friend dig through the garbage because he'd accidentally tossed his dentures in with the trash. I had that same moment of, do I pick this up? Do I call him over? The whole time searching I was just visualizing this guy gumming a chicken sandwich. When I was in middle school I was at a birthday party for a friend of mine who lived a couple blocks down the street from me. In the middle of the party I suddenly got the biggest urge to shit. My crush was at the party, and the only bathroom was right next to the living room where everyone was. So I knew I couldn't blow up the bathroom there. I told my friend I had to run home because my mom needed help with something. I tried calling her or my dad to come pick me up, but neither answered. So I had to walk. I wanted to run, but was afraid if I did it would let loose. So I determinedly sped walk home. I got about 3 houses away from my house, and it became too much and I shat my pants. When I got home, no one was there and I realized I didn't have my keys, so I was locked out. I waddled around to my sister's window as it was always unlocked, pried it open, and very carefully maneuvered my shit-covered self into the room. Unfortunately her bed was under the window, and on my way down, I smeared shit all over one of her pillows. I went into the bathroom, cleaned up, changed my pants, threw out the shit-covered pillow, then headed back to the party. No one questioned me, and no one ever found out what happened. Edit. Well shit. I posted this then proceeded to take a nap. Then woke up to a full inbox. I was having a bad day, so thanks Reddit for cheering me up. Similar story. I was at a friend's house down the street and was playing tackle football with him and some other friends who lived across the street from the house we were playing at. Anyway, one friend's little brother suddenly stopped playing and announced that he had to go home, across the street, to poop. He made it the 30 featuring across the street, pulled down his pants and pooped right there in the middle of his front yard. Went inside to presumably clean up and came back out 10 minutes later. You're a champ, Steven. My record for beating off in one night was 15 times. I was at my grandmother's house. She went to bed, and it was the first time I had solitary access to the internet. Oh, to be 14ish again. The best part? I didn't know about deleting browsing history because I didn't have the internet at home. Not sure I've ever wanted to die as badly as when she taught me how to delete it, in front of my mom. I didn't know alpacas were animals until I was 27. I thought alpaca meant made from llama hair, much like wool is made from sheep hair. I thought the moon phases were caused by the Earth's shadow on the moon. It was only when my son asked me to explain moon phases that I luckily decided to Google first so I can give him a proper answer. Hahaha. That's crazy, guys. This guy thought the moon phases were the Earth's shadow. Ha. What an idiot. Dart. Frantically Googles moon phases. Edit. Guys, I get it now. Thank you for the many and varied explanations. And now I understand. RIP my inbox. And finds this delight of the website, which was somehow made in 2013 and not 2003. Primera Mutual Help webpage. I don't think it was made in 2013. That's probably when it was last updated. Based on the site codebase and the following meta tag. Meta name equals generator content equals Adobe PageMill 3.0 win. I think it was probably made before 2005 since Adobe PageMill 3.0 was discontinued in 2000. It's a sphere lit by the sun. So much like the dark shadowy side on a ball, you don't always get to see the side facing UV litters. Here's a way to make your own moon faces. During sundown, grab a ball and stand in an open area. Turn in circles with the ball held out in front of you. You'll see parts of it be lit and others be darkened from the object's own shadow. You now have a tiny moon in your hand. Congratulations. You're a god. I definitely know what causes the shadow to be cast on the moon. But could you explain it to everyone else? The phases of the moon depend on its position in relation to the sun and earth. It's darker when it's closer to the sun as its far side is illuminated and not visible to us. Dang, I knew that, but when reading this thread I was questioning what else would it be other than the Earth's shadow. Then I read your comment and was like, oh right, that. When I was young, I didn't know the difference between getting laid and getting laid off. Had no idea that these things are completely different. I would use them almost interchangeably. So, when my dad lost his job one year, the next day at school I went around explaining to all my classmates, yeah, things aren't going well at my house. My dad got laid yesterday. Damn. I got laid off yesterday. It's about time. It's good you know now. I got laid by my asshole of a boss today. I argued every step of the way until he physically forced me. I was in tears the entire time. He told me it was just business. I got laid off yesterday. It was absolutely horrible. She just laid there, lifeless, and played this god-awful reggae funk music on full blast. I had just left the bar, so I was super drunk the entire time as well. My friend, non-native English speaker. Thought getting laid meant to get drunk. I let her know after I heard her say to a bunch of people at a bar that she wanted to get laid tonight. Edit. Though. Thought. My first year at college, an international student told the dean she was as roundy as a wild goat, thinking it just meant excited, having heard her friends say the phrase. Is that a euphemism for getting horny? I've never heard that before. I'm Canadian. When I was a kid, my older brother told me the word fetish just meant to like something. I remember telling my dad's girlfriend I had a fetish for her enchiladas. I listened to Adam Sandler at a young age. Probably too young, but hey. And hearing his skits but not knowing what jizz actually was, I just assumed it was a synonym for whiz. So during the car ride home from the beach, I announced to my mother and older sister that when next we pulled over, I really needed to take a jizz. Their reaction still did not teach me what jizz was, but it absolutely taught me that it was not the same as a whiz. I used to live in Alaska and the highways are pretty desolate. I drank a cup of coffee from my thermos and the urge to poo hit me hard and fast. I held it for about 2 minutes thinking the urge would pass. It didn't. So I pulled over on the shoulder, got out of my car and listened for any oncoming vehicles. Nothing. I proceeded to pull my pants down and squat by the side of the road. I was spray shitting for about 5 minutes and just staring off into the distance enjoying the view when all of a sudden a goddamn silent ass Prius pulled up to see if I needed help and saw me pushing a turd. A little boy pointed at me and screamed. Edit. For those wondering where this happened, Seward Highway on the way from Anchorage to Seward. Edit 2. Prius do exist in cities like Anchorage. They're mostly rentals. This is the best one. Damn silent Prius. Good for the environment. Bad for emergency street side poops. Shit man. Driving a Tesla is like Splinter Cell creeping. Probably would have helped OP push that fudge dragon out. I drive a Prius and it's damn near impossible for me to leave a flea market parking lot without having to slow to crawl behind oblivious pedestrians with their backs to me. Damn silent Prius. Dude, I don't drive a Prius. I drive a pickup. Vroom, vroom, vroom. They don't even turn their heads. They aren't even on their cells. They just don't give a bleep. I couldn't flush a poo at my mate's parents' place, years and years ago, and I had no brush or poop knife to help me out. Eventually I flushed enough that it flooded the bowl to nearly overflowing levels, but it was still stuck. I heard my friend ask if I was okay through the door and I just said yep. The whole thing was fucked for like 20 minutes and I had to get out of there, but I couldn't leave my poo particled water to stagnate there. I did the only thing I could and stuck my hand in the bowl and punched that poo into a flock of fesses. It was single-handedly the shittiest thing that ever happened to me, but I got the problem fixed, I guess. So that was good. Yet my hand stunk like shit. Some say it still does to this day. Edit. Words. I painted my embarrassing childhood moment. Imgur webpage. Something similar happened to me when I was in primary school. Our teacher told us to form pairs, so I decided to pick my closet friend, and as soon as I did he began to cry. The teacher asked him why he was crying and he replied saying he wanted to be paired with his actual best friend. Man, it sucked always being the fifth wheel in the group of friends I had. Especially as someone who was extremely shy and self-conscious. It sucked always being the fifth wheel in the group of friends. Hey me. The first time I ever spoke in public was a debate competition when I was 13. I pissed myself in front of teachers, peers, opponents, other schools, judges, and any other descriptor for a person in that 200-person audience. I was embarrassed but decided that nothing more embarrassing would likely happen if I spoke in public again. and now I have no fear of public speaking. I was supposed to read a Shel Silverstein poem as a talent show performance in 4th grade, but I ended up walking out to the mic, completely forgetting every single word of the poem, and walking back off stage without saying anything. My parents were in the audience, of course. I've never asked them about it since. Now I feel better, because at least I didn't piss myself. Holy shit, this is absolutely hilarious. Can't stop laughing at the confusing chain of events that everyone must have been witnessing. Kid comes on stage, doesn't do or say anything, then leaves after a minute. You should have become a legend after that day. They probably thought he was a genius subversion comedian. A regular Andy Kaufman. The all assert dominance by pissing yourself trick gets them every time. If I have even one drink before going to sleep, I'm going to wet the bed. I'm a 25-year-old woman with a bladder of a 3-year-old apparently. I'm the same way. I've been trying to figure out how I can get drunk and sleep with a guy and not end up peeing all over him in the middle of the night. Suggestions? Find a guy that sees that as a pro and not a con. Seriously though, I don't know if this will help or not, but here's my experience. I used to wet the bed pretty frequently. I'm a pretty light sleeper, and it got to the point where the sensation of my crotch getting warm and wet would wake me up almost instantly, but always too late to stop it. This led me to remembering the dreams that I was having right before it happened. And in those dreams I was always, without fail, on the toilet, or somewhere else I might pee in real life. Unrelated to that, I got interested in lucid dreaming. I only ever got that to work a handful of times, but one of the side effects seems to be that whenever I'm in my dream washroom, I'm able to recognize that it's not real and I wake up before doing the deed. In the 10 years or so since then, I've only had 1 or 2 slip-ups. Edit. Obligatory mention that my most upvoted comment is about pissing the bed. Thanks Reddit. This is not uncommon, though it might be in the best interest of the posters here to see a pelvic pain specialist to evaluate if your pelvic floor muscles are weak. It also wouldn't hurt to see a urogeno to rule out bladder and urethra issues. Edit. So happy this got attention. Your pelvic floor literally holds your insides, and is not talked about enough. If you are in Nick, hit me up BC, I have amazing referrals. No need to pee overnight more than once. Booze or no booze, no need for painful sex. Did you know 1 out of 10 women have endometriosis, painful periods, ovarian cysts and intense bloating? Begone. What's my point? If something is a problem, explore it and advocate for yourself. 3. My housemate does this. She's 21, and if she drinks anything within 2 hours of going to bed, she wets the bed. She's wet the bed on friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, one-night stands, basically everyone she's shared a bed with. I am the same way and it sucks. I will set alarm clocks in the middle of the night if I've had too much to drink so I don't piss the bed. Woo. I had a tendency to get super obsessive over my crushes growing up. Total lovesick, I will straight up marry you right now obsessive. I went the whole 9 yards. Extravagant love letters, I love yous, you're perfect, angsty writing in my journal. Weird photos and music video montages. Dreaming and daydreaming. Yeah, all the cringy creepy stuff. I was a lonely kid with a lot of feelings and an emotionally abusive home life. I didn't stop until one girl legitimately thought of me as her stalker, in a quasi-endearing way. That's when it hit home for me that my idea of love was wrong. And you have to get to know someone to have a relationship with them. Dude, I grew up in a very similar situation. Your whole view on relationships gets twisted. I remember being sat down by a teacher and told why it was a problem. Definitely the most crushingly embarrassing moment of my childhood. Took years to pull out all the twisted and healthy threads of behavior. Glad you're one of the fellow humans who recognized how messed up it is. I feel like a lot of people don't. Your whole view on relationships gets twisted. Yep. For me, it was a demoralizing lesson to learn. And even then I struggled with it a little in my first real relationship, which is whole other story and then some. Some people project their unmet needs, desires, and personal problems onto another person who might be in some cases the totally oblivious object of their affection, and put them on a pedestal, or it could go the opposite direction, and turn the person you love into a target for abuse, when in reality you are the problem. What most certainly did not help was watching my long ago separated parents pretty much fail in their own marriages and relationships. So I didn't exactly have a great example. Obsession definitely isn't conducive to healthy relations. For me though, it was all rooted in problems at home. And I had to unlearn the negative things I'd picked up as a kid in order to have a better adult life and actual relationships. It also really doesn't help that modern media has portrayed love so inaccurately for so many years. True love is much more like a close friendship than some magical bubbly feeling that makes the whole world pink and glittery. But it's hard to realize that if all the information you've ever been fed tells you otherwise. Agreed. Not to mention the fact that love is portrayed as one defining moment where you commit to the other person forever. Movies say nothing of the everyday hardships of love and how it's actually work. The main characters just ride off into the sunset together. I can 100% relate. Looking back, I cringed so hard. It wasn't until a girl started avoiding me at all costs that I realized shit, I need to chill. I have a scar on my penis from jerking off. It got a little rug type burn on it, and being a teenager I couldn't wait till it healed to jerk off again. So it took a long time to heal and now I have a scar. I told my girlfriend that it was from a zipper accident from my youth. My girlfriend and I became a long-term thing and I didn't want to keep the truth from her. Finally told her and she made fun of me. But now we have been married for almost 9 years now. I have imaginary interviews in the tub with talk show hosts about my life and how I became famous. I like to change it up. I also often do this when showering. Halfway through though I go, WTF am I doing? Then a minute later, I continue. Oh, I do this all the time. Not in the tub though. I will just tell my life story in my head to the talk show host like I am famous. I have a terrible fear of mixing up bathrooms. Before going in one I'll check several times, is it M, is the triangle pointing down, etc. Sometimes I'd even walk out of one after a couple steps to recheck the door. And yet sometimes I mix them up. I did this at a wedding once. The doors to both bathrooms were wide open and I saw a guy go in one, so I assumed it was occupied and genderless. So I used the other one. While I was in the stall, I realized what happened and had to wait it out until all the other women left the bathroom. The only person who saw me was the wedding photographer. Many years ago there was a club in Toledo that had the bathrooms marked men on the women's bathroom and women on the men's bathroom. Underneath the word, there was an arrow pointing the bathroom next to it. It was a hoot. I fell for it the first time I was there. Everyone fell for it the first time they were there. Some people kept falling for it just for fun. Physical education at school, we had to do this thing where you lie on your back with your legs in the air. You then move your legs in a pedaling motion. I was chosen for a demonstration. Alas, I was wearing boxer shorts. Imagine how embarrassed 12-year-old me felt when my right testicle popped out to say hello, as discreetly as I could. With about 30 people watching, I tucked it away. When it was mentioned afterwards, I just denied that it had happened. Denied it repeatedly in the hope that everybody present might just decide they were mistaken about what they believed they saw. I got so drunk at a festival that I blacked out completely for 10-12 hours. I don't even remember starting to drink. When I woke up, I thought someone had taken a shit in my tent while I was asleep. However, I soon discovered that it was in fact me that had shit myself. Edit. I see a lot of people suggesting I got a spiked drink. I doubt it, but don't know for sure. This all happened after camping in the festival queue with very little sleep, then hotboxing my tent and immediately passing out for 6 hours. So that might be the reason why I remember fuck all. I also didn't have anything stolen or abnormal charges on my card. Plus we only had canned beer or liquor from official festival stores. When I was a little kid, I used to go to ladies' washroom in my school. They were much cleaner than gents and I hate peeing outside of the stalls. So I figured why not? But one day, I saw the toilet water being filled with blood and since then, I stopped using ladies' washroom. As a female, I rarely see stuff like that in public bathrooms. However, sometimes girls don't wrap up their items properly to throw it in the trash. At my work, trash can is open and right directly next to the toilet. And not only can you see it, but it fucking stinks too. Sometimes girls' bathrooms are repulsive. Edit. Words. In my experience working at the grocery store and having to clean the restrooms for 5 times a week for about 2 years, the women's bathroom is on average more disgusting, especially the little biohazard boxes for tampons, which was super traumatic for 16-year-old me. However, the men's restroom had by far the edge in the most outright disgusting things, like multiple times someone just straight up shit on the floor, or the wall, or wiped their ass and balled up the shit covered toilet paper and left it next to the toilet. On one occasion I just saw someone shit on the floor, just walked out without saying anything, and told no one in the hope that someone else would be assigned to cleaning it that day. Additionally, disgusting story. One time a little girl puked on herself, her mom, me, and the register. Management asked me to clean it up. I'm pretty squeamish when it comes to puke, so I begged them not to make me do it. They insisted. So then I also ended up puking all over the register. Then I got to go home. Finally, while I was visiting my girlfriend's family home one summer during college, I had to use the bathroom. I had been there a couple of days and had to go el numero dos, so I went. It was huge and clogged the toilet horribly. Now this was no ordinary bathroom. It's a makeshift bathroom in the basement that's half finished, half unfinished. Panicking, I looked around to find a plunger. There wasn't one. So, I found a sort of barbecue knife thing. I tried to stab and cut the poop up. Didn't work. It smelled so horrible you could smell it up to the kitchen. Freaking out at this point. Nothing will get this poo down the damn toilet. I asked my girlfriend what to do. She was dying laughing at me and then told me to just go home. About a 3-hour drive. So I got my stuff, headed home, and never ever spoke about it again. Her dad apparently had to try and fix it over the course of 3 days. I never ever will go poop at that house ever again. One time I went over to my friend's house and had to use the toilet. I used to have enormous shits, but I got pretty used to being able to unclog anything. Not this one. Apparently the pipes couldn't hold up and flooded their basement. They had to renovate that bathroom after that too. I'm still not allowed to use that bathroom when I'm at his house. Why did you have to go home just because you clogged the toilet? I think that's a really weird outcome. After I bungee jumped 4 years ago, I am terrified of high bricks, towers and even mountains. Everything went fine, but I can't shake off the feeling and I am scared that I will suddenly jump from them. The call of the void. Pi Media webpage. That's exactly how I feel at heights and why I hate them. I've convinced myself to stay on the ground cause one day I will jump. I have a fear of heights and get vertigo as well. But I'm a very strong-willed person and didn't let it control me. To face my fear I decided to do a bungee jump. The highest one in the world just to show my fear who is boss. Yeah, big mistake. I suffered from a kind of PTSD haze for a day or so after the jump. Dizziness, shakes, disconnected feeling, flashbacks etc. I'm now even more scared and my vertigo is worse. The only solution is to do it again. Obviously yes. This just shows you how complex psychology is. Immersion therapy can really help some people and traumatize others. I'd argue there's a difference between immersion therapy, which has you do small steps and acclimate over time, to jumping off the highest bungee jump in the world for your first time. Great argument. Gradual exposure therapy aims to hit 50% anxiety reaction sustained until anxiety decreases by around 50%. That is, you feel the anxiety leaving. This example would be flooding. Works for some but certainly never recommended. I'm not sure if I'm with my ex. It has been 4 years and she has already married someone else. Edit. Funny thing is she dumped me because she thought I didn't care. Well, joke's on her. Write out everything you feel and want to say about her, your relationship, like a journal entry. Don't give her what you've written, but be completely honest with yourself. Do this multiple times over days or weeks if you think you need to. You'll feel better and be further along to being over her, because if you're unsure you aren't over her, that doesn't mean you'll stop loving her or anything. But doing this really helped me not want to be with my ex anymore. Also, if you have someone that you can talk to about her who won't judge you, you should talk with that person. This right here. My ex broke my heart, and when I was forced to try to get over her, she later regretted the whole thing and tried to win me back. I wrote in a journal every time I was overwhelmed with feelings. I'd write out what I wanted to say to her, how I was feeling. Just wrote and wrote. I've never written anything in a journal before. It still makes me sad to think about how I had to develop a coping mechanism because of her. But it seriously helped. God damn it, Jessica. Have someone that you can talk to about her who won't judge you. I cannot recommend therapy enough for 75% of the population, especially if you have coverage. Even if you're just a little stressed at work or you have some minor relationship issues like being clingy or anger issues, you don't have to go every week or even every month. It's not like a program with an end date or graduation. It's just some unbiased professional, like talking to your own smarter consciousness. Are you a golden retriever? Seriously, the most excitable breed I know off the top of my head. No one knows you're a dog on the internet. I used to crank one out almost every day at my fraternity house in one of the bathrooms. I thought I was being sneaky until my senior roast. I was in a frat and didn't live at the house, but the bathroom had 2 showers and apparently one guy would shamelessly jack it while making casual conversation with the guy in the other shower. I'm poor, so it did not even occur to me that you could get a speeding ticket in a boat. During the early horny stages of my life, I realized I had a foot fetish. If that wasn't embarrassing enough to admit, how I figured that one out still makes me cringe to this day. I was at a friend's house. My friend's dad always had a habit of wearing his flip-flops whenever he came home from work. He left suddenly and I noticed that he left his flip-flops by the door. While my friends were distracted with video games, I got the idea of grabbing my friend's dad's flip-flops. Went to another room and placed the left flip-flop on my crotch while I smell the right flip-flop. The result was an intense orgasm that almost made me cry, followed by lots of shame of what I've done afterwards. I am still close with said friend and see his dad once in a while. To this day, whenever I see his dad in flip-flops, I cringe with shame and embarrassment over something that happened 15 plus years ago. Despite being in serious relationships, I still count this moment as one of the top 3 of the most intense orgasms I've had in my life. Well, that's 3 embarrassing things I have admitted. I'm on a roll. Edit. I have been blessed by the Reddit gods. Thank you for your forgiveness and your offering. I was on vacation somewhere in Spain. I was religiously working out back then, so I even got a contract for this local gym. For this 1 month. Met this girl there, a local. Read Spanish. First only small talk, then we went on some dates. First going to the pool with her brothers, later going out alone. I really liked her, and she was sexy, but I didn't dare to talk much, since my Spanish was poor. I figured we were friends. We were out on a date, playing pool billiard after having some arepas, similar to tacos, when suddenly she puts some egg-shaped plastic container into my hand. It looks like one of those containers that contain small prizes you get from those carnival machines. You know, the ones with the claw that you operate, trying to grab a stuffed animal or whatever. If you don't win a real prize, you get a loser's prize. Think like some cheap metal flag pin or something. So we were there playing pool billiard, and she pushes this plastic egg container into my hand. I smile and say something like much as gracious and pocket the egg, preparing for my next shot. She shakes her head in protest. She gestures at my pocket. She also says something, well, a lot, in Spanish. Mostly, I understand no. I'm lost. Finally, she loses her patience, facepalms and shoves her hand down my pocket, where I keep my eggs, pulls out the plastic one, opens it. It contains a condom. I finally understand. I go beat red. I'm such an idiot. I dated this girl for like 1.5 years in high school. Having dated someone before her, I was not a virgin but she was. At the beginning of our relationship we didn't do anything more than grope and make out until one night I went over there to watch some basketball with her parents and their neighbors who were having a little party. I get there and after about an hour of her hinting, she tells me to go to her room with her. We start making out and she undoes my pants and goes down on me. After a couple minutes she stops abruptly, then just suddenly vomits all over my dick. I guess she had eaten Italian earlier that evening because there was red sauce and noodles all over my groin. She flipped out and ran to get a towel while I just sat there in disbelief. I stood up and politely went home to scrub pasta sauce out of my pubes for the next 3 days. Surprisingly, that wasn't what made us break up. And now we've been married for 6 years now and we still eat spaghetti and laugh. This better be the ending, you broffish. Nope, we broke up because she hated to see me hang out with my friends and threatened to file a rape charge against me after I wouldn't spend Easter with her. Some stories don't have happy endings. I just want to preface this by saying this is the second shit-related story I have posted on Reddit in a 24-hour period. At the risk of anyone looking at my comment history and thinking I have this disturbing poop fetish, here goes. The other day, I took a shit in a shared office bathroom, not knowing that the toilet was out of order. I chose this bathroom because it has a window that you can open. And the shit, it was the perfect type of shit. Nice and big, but required very little toilet paper. Upon flushing, the toilet wouldn't flush. In the words of Mike Sorrentino, We got ourselves a situation. This bathroom was right off of the break room, and there were quite a few people who saw me go into the bathroom. I was in here for long enough that it was clear to anyone paying attention that I was probably defecating. After a few flushes and waiting, my heart rate up at this point, most of the shit went down. But there was a stubborn piece of turd that broke off and would not go down. Waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally I had to come to a decision. Do I take the turd and throw it in the garbage? Do I wrap it in toilet paper hoping nobody notices? Do I take the toilet paper at doo-doo and take it to the other bathroom and flush it? Do I throw it out the window? I took a wad of TP, fished the poop out of the toilet, wrapped it in more toilet paper, and I started to put it in the garbage until a little voice in my head told me, no, under no circumstances are you throwing your own feces in the garbage can at work. This is your place of employment. You are respected here. You'll never sleep at night again if you do this. I then took the shit, shoved it down the toilet as far as I could. I can't see it anymore. I went to wash my hands, arms and scalding hot water. More people can be heard in the break room. At this point, I must let go, and let God. I went back to my desk, praying to God that no one suspected anything, and that the shit didn't just flow back. A few minutes later, when the coast was clear, I checked. The turd was gone. Panic attack over. It was kind of hard to accept the fact that I had stood there holding my own shit, in my work clothes and everything. Whenever I think sexual thoughts I sneeze. It has gotten to the point where if I ever sneeze my girlfriend just gives me a stare and says number. That's hilarious. I, like many other people, sneeze when looking into bright light. It's because our nerve centers for bright light and for sneezing are so close together in our brains, that when one gets overly stimulated, the stimuli jump over to the other area as well. Just imagine I explained that a bit more professionally. Must be the same thing for your brain. The other day I not only vomited on my lover's dick, I simultaneously pissed and shat on his floor. You know there are people that would pay for such exceptional service like that. Zero. Yeah, but most of them will be too scared to be caught misusing public funds nowadays. Wait, what? Were you sick? How does that even happen? That's impressive. I have smacked my face on our glass door and the side window of vehicles so many times my husband thinks I need a helmet. How it happens? Something will catch my attention. My dog's barking. Hearing the cat food bowl get knocked over, my husband pointing at something as we drive by, and I'll overly excitedly go to press my face against the glass to see. I do it every damn time. Husband also likes to find candles for me to smell in the store because I somehow smash my nose onto the wax, or nearly bust my lip on the rim of the glass, while I am holding the candle. Until I was 25, I thought all apples tasted like Red Delicious. I tried a Red Delicious as a kid, hated it, and assumed that's just what apples tasted like. I was pleasantly surprised when my wife introduced me to Honeycrisp apples. I'll be honest, Red Delicious apples are bad at everything. Not good for pies. Kinda mushy, grainy, not really sweet or tart, with thick, bad tasting skin, etc. Yeah, it's gotta just be the marketing genius behind the name that got them to be so widespread, because they are just awful. They weren't always awful. They've become awful over time. I highly recommend this article on the subject, The Awful Reign of the Red Delicious, The Atlantic web page. Very interesting. Thanks for sharing. TLDR. They were bred for looks and ease of cultivation, as well as marketed heavily, and they are in decline, as they should be. My first porn experience. I grew up in the country and was biking home and found an old nudie magazine that looked like it was there for at least a week. Rained on, driven on and most likely already came on. But my 13-year-old self bent over, picked it up and jerked off to it right there and then on the side of the street without even getting off my bike. Twice. I seriously don't know how I feel about this. I'm impressed for sure. The apathy, the courage, the efficiency of the double tap upon discovery, and on your bike exclamation point. Where can I buy your book? Back in elementary school I slipped and fell in a watery spaghetti puke puddle. Fuck a biff for me apparently couldn't puke into the toilet for some reason. When I hurriedly sprinted into a bathroom stall because I was yo-yoing a massive shit, the slip caused me to land on my ass hard enough that I shat myself. So I had to waddle down to the nurse's office, drenched in puke and caked in my own shit, and explain to her what the fuck just happened. So did you get to go home or were you forced to sit in your own fesses in class for the next few hours? When I was in first grade, my parents accidentally gave me an adult-sized dose of laxatives, which came to fruition at about 10 AM. The nurse stripped me naked, had me wash myself with a hand towel, and gave me a pair of sweet pants to wear for the day. I wore my winter coat on top, no shirt and no underwear. Then I got sent back to class. Of course laxatives don't just vanish after the first shit, so I was back in the nurse's office by noon. When my parents came to pick me up apparently I was standing naked in the nurse's office, wouldn't want to dirty up a chair, covered in shit, holding a bag of soiled clothes. The school asked my mom to clean up the bathroom stall. Apparently I had splattered shit 5 feet high, which is kind of impressive for a 6-year-old. I've recently taken a liking to having a finger up my butt. Their prostate orgasms are intense motherfuckers and now I'm slightly addicted to them. It's weird I'm out my girlfriend and now I think she secretly thinks I'm gay. To help your girlfriend out more, maybe educate her to what is actually going on with that prostate. I was that girl for a while, and was completely taken aback when my ex decided randomly one morning he wanted me to stick things in his butt. Now it's like the best power trip. So good. Exactly. The face he makes when he has a stick up his butt is just awesome. There are a lot of nerves down there. No reason for it to not feel good. Liking anal doesn't make you gay. Liking other guys makes you gay. I thought doggy style had to be anal until last week. My friends constantly are talking about it and I thought they were doing anal all this time. Oops, I'm 18. The man who put a baby in me thought the same thing. I know for a fact he has seen a naked woman. And I'm hyper flexible so he'd often bend me in half kinda doggy style. But I'm on my back. Howdy girls get pregnant from doggy style. What? Howdy girls get pregnant from the back. Guys come in the butt. Whoa. Come again? He also thought a duck was a fish. Picked a real winner there. At least my kid's smart. Must have gotten that from me. Lol. I only have one testicle, the right one. And often use the term I'd give my left testicle for that. It has now become an inside joke between my wife and I. I have a friend with only one testicle. We call him the one nut wonder. I worked at a restaurant with a guy who only had one nut. Everyone called him half sack. My uncle, who is in his late 50s, recently found out he had a third testicle. Like, how the fuck are you just finding this out? I dropped my female friend and a cute friend of hers off somewhere and as the cute friend left she said it was nice to meet you. To which I responded hello, her saying nice to meet you for some reason processed through my head as a greeting. Still wanted to drive into a wall though. Sucking your own cock feels more like sucking cock than getting your cock sucked. I can't pee in front of other people or use urinals. It just won't come out unless I have to pee so bad that I am in excruciating pain. I didn't know what John Bon Jovi looked like when I was younger, so I pictured him looking like Owen Wilson. Recently single, I decided to go to a college party, 21, and I ended up picking up a really attractive girl. We go back to my place and she suggests 69 and I'm like hell yeah. She gets on top and about 3ish minutes into it she shits. Like vodka shits. Super liquidy and green. My mouth was fully opened and it got in my nose and mouth and all up in my eyes. And then while I'm blinded and throwing up she went to the bathroom, I'm guessing wiped and left. I've retold this story to people as one time my friend. Short version girl shat in my mouth while 69. Edit. I drew a quick sketch for those that asked. Excuse the rushed style of it. I wanted to finish it before my wife got home from work. Not normal. Album on in the web page. Edit. For those asking. I couldn't tell you why I started doing it. Too much time at home on my own as a child. And I hadn't developed an interest in masturbation yet. Thanks for the gold. When I was really young I used to scale the walls of our bathroom and shit into the toilet. I would take my socks off and let my clammy feet stick to the cold tiles. I would climb up as high as I could go and crap. It hit the water every time. Hell of name. I told a bunch of old co-workers about it once. Had to explain to a group of 5-6 people as they looked at me like I had 3 heads. I even drew a diagram of my toilet maneuvers. I'm sure it's still around somewhere. This is the funniest shit I have read today. This is real talent here, people. Swallowed a fork, ended up in hospital, and had to have stomach cut open because they couldn't risk pulling it back out. This is one of the cringiest stories from my past, which I have shared before, but it was probably the most embarrassed I have ever been. Back when I was in high school and I went out with a girl I had a huge crush on. We went to the zoo and then grabbed some food at some place. It was great and I had an amazing time, but we had to split up in order to get our trains that were going in the opposite directions. I awkwardly tried to lean in for a kiss, while she went in to hug me, and I ended up headbutting her in the face and her nose started bleeding. I was so embarrassed and I just asked, "Are you okay?" And when she said, "I think so," I just waved goodbye and ran into the train station. I avoided her for weeks because of this and was too embarrassed to ask her out again. You've definitely shared this before because I have you tagged as headbutts women. I have irritable bowel. I was on a date once and we were driving through some unknown rural suburbs when the feeling hit me. Not even Jesus could have delayed this impending anal storm. I didn't know where I was and had no idea how to find the main road. It was mostly wide open land, so no trees or bushes to hide behind really. I pulled over and let rip on some poor guy's lawn. Didn't have any tissue or anything in the car, so I'm dragging my ass across the lawn like a fucking cat trying to clean myself as best I could. When suddenly a very pissed off homeowner comes running screaming, "WTF, WTF, WTF, I'm calling the cops." I explained the situation, so he gave me a bag and some tissue and thankfully decided not to call the cops since I cleaned it up. Needless to say, there was no second date after that. I'm not really that embarrassed about the story, TBH. What I'm really embarrassed about is how many similar stories I have like this. Edit. Yes, I always keep tissue in my car now. When I was in elementary school, the popular girl in my class was having a birthday party. Somehow I got invited. My parents dropped me off at her house and they were all playing with Barbies. I didn't know we were supposed to bring them. So, feeling awkward, I went to the bathroom. When I came out, all the other girls were gone. The mom came around the corner and asked why I didn't go to the movies with the rest of the girls. The mom had to call my parents and explain that I got ditched and they needed to come pick me up. Sometimes when I take my dog out to pee, and he's been bad, I pee on the bush in our yard he just peed on, to assert dominance. It'll show you not to eat my sandwich off the kitchen table, you little bastard, unzips pants. Ooh, I can't believe I'm reliving this. I got kicked out of and banned from our sports club in our suburb for giving my partner a blowjob at the table whilst shit-faced drunk on Black Sambuca in front of lots of people. I thought I was being discreet. Clearly I wasn't. Edit. 1. I am female. 2. I am not single. 3. I still cringe with embarrassment when I think about what I did. It was a dumbass thing to do. 4. Black Sambuca is nasty stuff that makes me do stupid shit. Pro tip. When you're shit-faced you're not being discreet. When you're not shit-faced, you're still not likely being discreet. I'm a grown man with a wife and a kid and I still can't accept the fact that I have to work for a living. I've changed careers 6 times, and by some magic I managed to find and keep enough work to pay the bills. But the very idea of sitting at work depresses the hell out of me and I take months off whenever I can. Every other adult that I work with, and my wife, are total grown-ups about having to work. But every single morning I have to freshly absorb the blow and then struggle through the day. I'm at work now, feeling like a lazy jerk. I wet the bed until I was like 14/15. I wasn't abused or anything. I guess my bladder took a long time to mature or I was just a very deep sleeper. Needless to say, I went to very few sleepovers. That I talk to my cat in baby voice. I'm a 39-year-old dude. I also make up Illichthobard poems for him on the fly. Most recent one goes like this. His name is Guns. Actually Gunner. And he is bad. When he is naughty, it makes me mad. But he is cute. And licks to snuggle. And that is why I give him huggles. Edit. Since this comment blew up, here's a kitty selfie. Imgur webpage. You're 39. And that okay. You talk to kitten v cute way. You won't be judged for talk like that. It just shows you love your cat. Huggles and snuggles and kisses galore. Guns will always ask for more. For some reason whenever I hear someone mention Wiz Khalifa I always think of Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know why that is. I'm a straight male. When the Transformers movie first came out I didn't realize Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox were different performers. I knew there was a hot girl in it. I also knew that a person named Shia LaBeouf was in it who I thought was female. Every time someone talked about the Transformers movie for a 6-month period I always commented on how hot Shia LaBeouf was. I always got weird looks and never knew why. Finally saw some trailer or something that made me realize my mistake. Not one of my friends could have corrected me! I finished a section of the SAT early, and because it was an early morning test, decided to take a quick 15-minute nap before the next section. While semi-asleep I farted and startled myself awake in a dead silent classroom surrounded by 20 kids from my school. Looks of shock and terror, as well as muffled laughter, quickly filled the room. There was still over an hour to go in the test. I wasn't circumcised till I was about 8-9 because my foreskin had grown shut from getting poison oak and having open wound. Foreskin would blow up like a balloon, then pee would come out a small opening that when it grew shit would tear open. Hurt so bad my mom would have to set me up with a bath to pee in. That doesn't really sound embarrassing as much as it sounds unfortunate. One time when I was giving a blowjob, I threw up a little, swallowed, and kept going. I get really choked up at the sappy emotional parts of kids' TV shows movies. After reading through that sociopath thread going on in our AskReddit, I firmly believe you should wear this as a badge of honor. People can be terrifying. Yesterday I was playing a trivia game, and when asked what is the longest key on the keyboard, I answered the shift key. A few years ago I ran to school because I had to shit. For some stupid reason. I still do not know how that happened. I did not open the toilet lid and shit on the toilet lid. Then I went home because I was so embarrassed. The next day, my friend said to me, "You missed something. Someone shit on the toilet lid," and I was like, really? I broke a finger while getting on a carousel after pushing it with my little sister on it. I was almost 16. Extremely TMI. If you are squirmy about periods and blood, just keep scrolling. So I have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and was bleeding particularly heavy one day but wanted to go to Michael's cause I had a coupon and it was about to expire. I had a fresh tampon, a pad, and period panties. I thought I was good to go. Yeah, no, I wasn't going to be there that long. Well, I was in the scrapbooking aisle and I felt a sharp pain and knew what happened. A cyst had popped. Nothing new. It happens. I thought I was safe. Everything was fresh. I just stood there, waiting a bit, going through what was in my basket. Well, then I felt something on my leg. I looked down and sure enough blood was trickling down it. I was fucking embarrassed. It had never been this bad before, where having a tampon, a pad, and period panties didn't help, and of course I was in a store. I didn't know what to do. Should I run? Where will I run? To my car or the bathroom? But as I was preparing what to do next, an older woman walked by and she just happened to be a worker. I wasn't sure if I should ask her for help, but before I knew it I heard myself saying "excuse me" in a kind of panicky high-pitched voice. She looked confused, saw the blood, and then congratulated me on becoming a woman. She assured me that it was nothing to be ashamed of and that I should be proud. Edit. I was wearing shorts and the blood had run a little past my knee. None of it had got on the floor. Also, I look 12, so I think that's why she assumed I got my first period and not anything else. I can't read analog clocks. I was sick the day we learned how to in grade 3. I was too scared to ask anyone after that. I'm also really dyslexic and used to get really embarrassed by how slow I was at learning new things compared to other kids. So I never tried. Maybe I'll give it a go sometime. When I was in elementary school I drew Sonic the Hedgehog comic books with OCS and all because I was obsessed with the Sonic games. Then my uncle gave my Tony Hawk's Underground 2 and I never looked back. TFW, Tony Hawk saved me from almost being a furry. I was working at Barnes & Noble ringing up a customer and daydreaming about my then boyfriend. Finished the transaction. Handed the man his bag. Told him I loved him instead of wishing him a nice day. Died a little inside. I'd only ever seen antithesis written, and never heard it spoken. Pronounced it antithesis for years. Not specifically me, but you can always tell when you've walked in on a woman pooping in the girls' bathroom, because they get real quiet and still, and won't leave the stall while you're in there. Question. Do men do this? My purse is awesome, but it's a little too big and kind of satchel why, so I carry around a folder with blank papers in it to justify carrying the bag. I run a tea room at a big tech company and work alone, and sometimes I take my break in one of the cupboards underneath the counter. It's warm and cozy, and no one bothers me. While working at Coffee Bean in North Hollywood I asked, out of habit, Robert Redford what his name was for his order. He stared at me for a second, and then said Bob. I wasn't 100% sure it was him until he responded, and I could feel my face go red. To this day, I don't know why that was so embarrassing. Edit. I also just accidentally locked myself in a closet at work. I have written and rewritten my post 14 times. Because I am embarrassed to type. I live with PTSD. I am not a veteran. I was never abused, sexually or physically. Mental illness is never something to be embarrassed about. Stay strong, friend. I want my girlfriend and one of her friends to fuck my face and ass simultaneously with strap-ons. I just feel like I'd be judged in public just for saying that. Unless you also want to do it in public, I don't know that public judgment would be all that likely. I hope this happens for you. And if it does, you gotta say double stuff me like an Oreo, it probably would lighten the mood. In 7th grade I was sitting in French class when I got the overwhelming urge to shit. I raised my hand to excuse myself to the bathroom, and as soon as I got in the hallway, my bowels got a mind of their own and I shit my pants. I decided the best course of action was to waddle to the nurse's office and hope she had spare pants. I burst into the office and she was in the middle of tending to another kid, who I knew. I started to mumble about needing to use her bathroom, right when the shit fell out of my shorts and down my leg, smearing all the way to the floor. The other kid and I locked eyes before he just burst out laughing. I quickly ran into the nurse's bathroom. She handled the situation pretty well and called my mom, and I got to go home for the rest of the day. Luckily, for my middle school dignity, the kid never told anyone about what happened. Thanks, Joey. I have a habit of pretending I'm a stand-up comedian doing a Comedy Central special about all the dumb things that happened to me. I've gotten caught more than once and it always makes me want to die. I'm an adult, 22, and I still actually play with Transformers, not just collecting but playing. I have PTSD and one of the worst symptoms for me is my extreme startle response. People that know me understand. Strangers don't, and I know I must look like a weirdo. The worst part is when people who do know and do stuff to startle me on purpose. Anyway, I have two moments that are embarrassing to admit. I went to the bathroom at my friend's house and startled the crap out of myself with her bathrobe hanging on the door. I left my room to grab something, and when I came back my fiance was standing there. I screamed because I wasn't expecting him to be there. I also can't use the bathroom if someone can hear me. I can't drive much. I have to shower every time I use the bathroom. I'm not stupid, but cognitive dysfunction causes me lose words and conversation is humiliating sometimes. I used to pick my nose and eat it. I'm embarrassed to say this because I know my friend Reddit's also, but what are the odds of them finding out this? I suffer from the absurdly irrational campanophobia, a fear of buttons. When I was in 3rd grade I had to walk from one side of the room to the other to line up for something. Every other step I took was a fart. Like a loud and obvious fart. The class cracked up and were as brutal as 3rd graders are expected to be. That is also the year I called my teacher mom and wet my hair in the bathroom for my school picture. 3rd grade me was a confused and gassy hot mess. While I'm proud of the to rubber ducky porn montage music videos I made in 2014, Pornhub webpage, NSFW, and in 2018, Pornhub webpage, NSFW, I would be quite embarrassed if people found out how much of a porn expert I am. My freshman year of college, I went to a pre-Halloween party hangout at a friend from high school's apartment. He was a junior, the first friend I ever had with his own place, and I had an enormous, elementary school style crush on him. I would like to reiterate that this was a pre-game, and we were planning on going to an actual party soon. Not knowing my limits, I immediately drank a beer, took several shots of straight vodka, and ate a bunch of Halloween candy. I was rolling around on the floor in a short skirt, completely unable to be a person. Another freshman was throwing up in the bathroom. At this point, I am laying across several people who are sitting on the couch, and I suddenly realize I have to throw up. I run to the bathroom, but I don't make it. Where I'm standing in the hallway, I am completely visible from the living room. I lean back and proceed to projectile vomit all over the kid who was already laying on the bathroom floor. Suddenly, I lose control of my bladder. I am now pissing on the floor, and still vomiting all over my poor classmate's pants. I cleaned it up, and went back to the party. I am now dating the person whose apartment it was. Edit. I want to add that I was dressed as Velma from Scooby-Doo. Late to the party, but I would like to get this off my chest and NBSP. I never was truly potty trained until later high school, early college. Basically until I started dating. I peed in the toilet fine. But my problem was with number 2. I have no idea what it was. My parents really struggled with it. I just held it until I couldn't anymore, and then would go in my pants almost every day. I would hold it so much I struggled with chronic constipation too. I think it finally got to the point where I was so embarrassed to one day just go to the bathroom like a normal person, after crapping myself for so long, that I just did nothing about it. Luckily, I grew out of that eventually, but it kind of just go unsaid with my parents now. WTF Mayo. How would you hide the fact that you just shit yourself freely? My first time masturbating. Also my first time watching porn. So, back in middle school, I was curious about how to kiss. I didn't want to mess up my first kiss since it was obviously so important. So I looked up videos on YouTube on how to kiss. I ended up watching videos on people kissing, and there was a part that was cut off and the full link was in the description. So I went to the URL and watched porn for the first time. I saw that the person was moving the dick up and down, so I decided to do it, and I was like, wow, it feels good. But then after some time, I felt the urge to pee, so I stopped doing it. When I went to the bathroom though, for some reason there wasn't any pee. So I went back to masturbating, and then the need to pee came again, so I stopped. After doing this 2 more times, I just said fuck it, I'll just pee over the toilet. Turns out, pee did not come out. I told my boyfriend this and he couldn't stop laughing, so do your worst. Reddit. Sounds relatively normal to me. I do remember looking up on the internet how to kiss back when I was younger though. Before YouTube, it was a Yahoo Answers page that usually came up. There wasn't much useful information. It was all just do what comes naturally, but the idea of kissing was unnatural to me at the time. When I finally came to my first kiss, I spent so much time trying to process everything I had read and put it into my mouth and tongue that I sort of just became completely and utterly frozen. She was trying to do something fun and I was just, where does my mouth go if she goes left? Help me internet. But the internet couldn't help. I have full-fledged conversations with myself. I will imagine another me, and talk to that person. I laugh at what they say, and I ask them questions and listen to their response. I started doing this, to the extent I'm at now. When I was 17 after I broke up with my then GF. It's kind of like having an imaginary friend, I guess. I ask and take advice from the other me on just about anything. I even make hand gestures to the other me when in public, because I had the amazingly brilliant thought that that would make it make more sense, and thus not look strange to other people. Basically, I still have my imaginary friend and talk to them every goddamn free second I have. In kindergarten I stood up on the table and did a weird dance while everyone was staring at me. My mom was a teacher in the same school, and afterwards I had to do the exact dance in front of my mom. I had a pretty big disco phase in 7th grade. I'm 27. So this would have been in 2000. This was in middle school. Accidentally jumped into a random person's car thinking it was my friend's. Absolutely terrified a mother and her son. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Then quickly got out and watched them sped off. I never felt my face heat up so fast. To make it worse, the son ran up to me a week later. He went on chatting away, while I was too embarrassed to say anything return. Luckily he seemed cool with it and then walked away. When I was 14 I told my mother that I felt like a girl on the inside. I showed her a bunch of pictures of people transitioning and how badly I wanted hormone therapy. We had many a tear-filled conversation and our relationship was never the same afterwards. Maybe a few months or so and the feelings passed, and here I am years later embracing my natural self. But the shame and embarrassment will haunt me forever. Oh boy, this is my favorite story to tell. TLDR at the bottom. Forgive any formatting issues. I'm on mobile. So growing up in a very religious household, we would participate in nearly everything the church offered or planned. Every year we would go to LTC, Leadership Training for Christ, in Little Rock, Arkansas, where we would stay at a very nice hotel for 3 days while competing in various events like chorus, puppets, Bible quiz, etc. The last year I participated was my senior year of high school and I was 18 years old. March Madness has just begun and my family went to a sports bar for dinner to watch the first round of playoffs. When we got back, my parents and sister went to the ballroom for a worship service while me and my brother stayed in the room. He was sitting on the sectional couch with his head towards the extended end playing on his phone. I was rolling around the room in the office chair that was in there, also playing on my phone. I felt the urge to fart, so naturally I roll to where my brother is laying down and kick my legs up so as to fart directly into his face. In the process of kicking my legs up, I accidentally let the fart go. I think to myself, damn it, maybe I have another one wristy. Now I'm sitting in the chair while my ass hanging off the end holding my legs in the air, butthole aimed at my brother's face. I pushed and a nice loud slap comes out. Hecka nice, I think, as I put my legs down. As soon as my feet hit the floor I feel a distinctly warm, wet feeling in my crotchal region. I jump up while exclaiming I shit my pants. My brother looks up at me running to the bathroom and asks what the hell I just said. I just shit my pants, I yell while sitting on the toilet, unleashing hellfire from beneath. I hear him hit the ground and screech with laughter. Now, as anyone who has shut their pants before can tell you, you gotta inspect the damage. So I kick off my shorts and boxers and hold them up to check it out, while my brother calls my mom to help us out of this situation. However, he's laughing so hard that through the phone it sounds like he's crying, and all my mom can understand is 6969 super cool guy 6969 and help through what she assumes is tears. She naturally immediately sends my dad up to the room. Meanwhile, I'm in the bathroom trying to figure out if I'm holding my underwear inside out, because there's poop on both the inside and the out. Okay, those are fucked, and I throw them away and move to the shorts. And my god, I can't figure out if I'm holding them inside out either. I had shat through my shorts as well. Dad has now entered the room and panickedly asks my brother what's happening, who is still on the ground in tears laughing because I've been giving him updates on how bad the poop stains are. Once he gets the story, he calls my mom and tells her to calm down and nobody is hurt. I finally finish the shitstorm in the bathroom and finish up, having my dad bring me undergarments. I go to flush the toilet and nothing happens. I try again and the fecal water rises to the top of the bowl where it stops moving. I let my dad know and he calls the front desk, who sends a maintenance guy to unclog it. The poor sap shows up to fix the toilet with nothing but a plunger. He walks in the bathroom, comes out 30 seconds later and says I'll be right back. He comes back a minute later with what looks like a roto-rooter to cram my shit down this toilet. He works for about 15 minutes before the poop pile is gone and my dad gives him a hefty tip before he leaves. I then spend the next 30 minutes attempting to explain what happened to my parents. TLDR, I try to fart in my brother's face, shit through 2 layers of clothing and clog a hotel toilet that takes nearly 20 minutes to unclog. I have sucked more cocks, way more, than anybody I know, and I have traveled to every continent but Antarctica to do so. I have sized up more cocks with my mouth than any scientific study I know of, meaning I have a bigger sample size than the studies, even if my measurement is rather qualitative. Will there be another Mission Impossible movie? Edit. Gold. Thanks. Chick in Antarctica. The summer I spent at the Amundsen Scott facility handed out blowjobs to pretty much any man when it was their birthday. She wasn't horrible looking either. Nice lady. How many birthdays did you celebrate? I'd have gone in 25 and left 83. So many questions. Are you male or female? Largest dick? Smallest dick? Average dick? Have you noticed a trend with different continents? Different races? Do you travel primarily to find exotic dick? Or is it a byproduct of your travels? Any plans to explore the elusive Antarctic dick? I'm a 27-year-old straight guy who loves wearing thigh-highs and tights pantyhose. I've spent a ridiculous amount of money at SockDreams.com. In 6th grade I was the campaign manager for my friend's bid to be president of the student council. I did not vote for him. And when others found out, they did not vote for him either. He lost. I still regress to meowing and hissing when something, even just slightly, unpleasant happens. I'm 23. I do it in public too. I picked up the habit of meowing as a child and never grew out of it. Welp. My husband and I communicate in meows. I don't know how it happened. I can't remember not meowing. I'm 25, he's 28. We've known each other for 12 years. He knows he got it from me, but I'm not sure where I got it from. I found one guy I knew when I was 14 or 15 who meowed as an adult, but I think I started before him, and I was never particularly close to him. Nothing more than an acquaintance. So yeah, no idea, but I meow, and my husband does too. I went out to eat with my family once. After we were seated I glanced at the table next to me and noticed some girl staring at me. I thought it was weird but continued chatting with my family. I looked over again and she was still staring. After checking a third time I noticed she was giving me a nasty mug. I finally stood up to say something, and quickly realized it was a mirror. I was about to have an argument with my reflection. I believe that anybody who says they don't check out bulges, even for an instant, is a liar. Edit. For the record, I have a pretty good bulge and catch people checking it out often. Reminds me of this. Pretty girl at work arrived one day with a little brass kitten pin, pinned to her chest, but right around where her nipple would be. No idea why. Of course your eyes are attracted to this little piece of glitter. Then you get caught looking and as a defensive move you say nice pin. I was totally not looking at your boobs. Honest, I was looking at the pin. So this happened to her 5 or 6 times before lunch, and at lunch after another person commented on her nice pin she leaned forward, sitting across from me, and asked what's with everyone commenting on my pin today. I decided to fess up. Told her the truth. Ah, she said, then looked down to my crotch, kept her gaze there for a good 2-3 seconds, looked back up slowly to my face and said, nice belt buckle. When I was 18, me and this girl I was seeing went to the movies. Back row of a weeknight late showing of Memoirs of a Geisha. I didn't have a place of my own to bring her, so we had to get creative on where we could go to fool around. 2 other couples came in, but for some weird reason one of the couples sat directly in front of us in a basically completely empty theater. As soon as the movie began, the girl I was with started performing oral on me, but when I said I was about to go, she pulled off last second and my ejaculate hit a guy's neck who was directly in front of me. I'll never forget the look on his face. He threatened to kill me but ended up leaving with no violence. If you're reading this, I'm so sorry. I considered a throwaway. But what the hell? Got a problem with me? Come at me, bro. The following is NSFW. You've been warned. I think it was my 18th birthday or the day after when I decided I wanted to buy sex. Since hey, finally I was legally allowed to. So we went to the local brothel like sometimes before. Some of my friends back then were older, and I chose one of the ladies. I was nervous as hell and couldn't get a decent boner. The lady tried for some minutes until I realized, alright, this is going nowhere. It just doesn't work, so I excused myself. I'm not sure anymore what I said exactly. I think it was something along the lines of sorry, can't get in the mood right now. I think I'll just leave or so. The lady's mood obviously did a 180 and she insulted me while I got back into my clothes. I've forgotten most of it, but one part was about how I'm a loser and a poser for hiring her and then not getting a boner, or something like that. Took about a week for my self-consciousness to recover from that, up to the point it gave me flashbacks every time I got into a sexual mood, and consequently killing any erection I was having. I'm fine now. I also think it wasn't really my fault, so it's not embarrassing anymore. Maybe except the fact I just admitted going to a prostitute. Oh, and buckle up, I did again a few times. And well, it just isn't for me obviously. Blackmail me, I dare you. However, back then for that naive 18-year-old me who was really insecure and always believed that was the most embarrassing experience of his whole life. Today I smirk it off, because today I know responsibility for my erection is not only 100-0 or 50-50, it's more like 3-3. 3-3. You can be sexy, and I can be in the mood. But if I'm nervous or tired or something is keeping my mind occupied, it'll just not work even if I'd love to. Sorry, it's not your fault and not my fault. It's just how it is. Our minds and bodies are crazy most of the time. You'd think that getting paid to not have to fuck anyone would be the ideal prostitution job. I'm a 29-year-old alcoholic who lives at home, works a bullshit, dead-end, minimum wage job, has no solid career prospects, and hasn't been laid in 6 years. Wait, did you say embarrassing or depressing? Edit. 19 days sober. Still miserable. I'm 37. Have my own place. Have a better job. Was an alcoholic. I have no solid career prospects. This you have to know isn't bad. A lot of people never know what they want in life. I haven't had sex in 4 years, but I've had too much sex, so I'm good. It's not embarrassing or depressing. Quit the drinking, or scale back. Your brain will start to function better and you could get better. Wiped my butt after pooping before and my finger busted through the toilet paper and my finger got all stinky brown. I think we've all been there. Otherwise I'm joining the Stinky Brown Finger Club with you. I thought Obama was a Muslim from Kenya. In my defense, I was totally fine with both and thought the no foreign-born people can run for president law was bogus. I don't know if you were right for the wrong reasons, or wrong for the right reasons. This is how I pieced together that my parents are closet racists. Obama is a Muslim Kenyan. He shouldn't be president. Schwarzenegger though, they'd vote for him in a heartbeat. Baby boomers. Man. What ya gonna do when cooking a dinner for company and something, like a piece of chicken, accidentally falls to the kitchen floor while preparing the meal? I rinse it off, pat it dry, and put it back in the dish. Who's to know? My first job was at a chain Italian restaurant when I was 14. I was the cook. Anyway, enough about strange child labor practices of the olden days. People in that kitchen used to drop things pretty regularly and the policy was cover it in sauce. No one will know, no one ever did. My girlfriend was away last night so I had to house to myself. I got stoned and wanked myself off. Twice. I am 34. I've wanked to my mother-in-law's feet pic on Instagram multiple times. I was writing a paper for a law class about euthanasia, and I thought he meant euthanasia. I wrote half the paper before I asked how the hell this was related to law. My roommate tells everyone this story. Jerking off beside my mother in the same bed every night while she was asleep. I think she knew. Edit. Also, me and my friend would give each other blowjobs around when we were 7-9 years old. I turned out just fine and I don't really regret it.